at the end of the talk, I see that they are changed men and women. Changed men and women, not because of the physical things they went and saw with me, not the things I told them, but I see that spiritually, it feels like they have arrived. It feels like they are being baptized.
Welcome to Maximum Impact with Jay Cameron. I know you all have been waiting for this results reveal interview with Morris. Morris is a part of our team here in Ghana. He's been with us a couple years now, several years now, actually, to think about it. And so I wanted to put to rest, or at least continue the conversation that we've been having about DNA. At every turn, I'll find somebody on a comment, oh, that's fake, it's fake, you don't know it, it's bogus. The US government, this, that, and the other, it's not accurate, it can't tell you where you came from, it can't do this, can't do that. And I'm one of those people who I just don't believe things just because it's put out there. So in other words, I don't just believe DNA just because they say it's a kit and it works. So I like to go dig a little bit deeper, which most people won't do because they just want to believe whatever they want to believe. I'm the type of person, it's like, look, if you tell me something, I want to know exactly what's going on, and we dive deeper into it. So what I've been doing is I've been going to different parts of the world with DNA kits. I've been taking Ancestry.com and I've been taking AfricanAncestry.com with me. I've been to Belize, I'm going to be sharing some of that, Honduras, here in different parts of Africa. And so we want to find out if indeed the people are who they say they are. So Morris, he believes he's Ghanaian, from Ghana. And another thing I like to make sure everybody understands is that these countries that we know, we call them Ghana, we call them Nigeria, we call them Tanzania, we call them Zambia and Zimbabwe and all of that. All of these countries did not exist before 1885. And as far as actual countries that are formed as independent entities, that didn't happen in below the Saharan desert until 1957. So when you think about these countries, they're relatively new. So when people get results, they say, I thought I was Nigerian. The whole concept of Nigerian is new. The whole concept of Ghanaian is new. The whole concept of Togolese or Senegalese or Sierra Leonean, these are all new concepts since 1957. And you go look at the history of the countries and you begin to see that's when they received the so-called independence. I don't call it independence because the Francophone countries, the French still control the currency. The CFA is controlled by the French. It even says franc on it. I can go to Senegal and use the same currency in Senegal as I do in Cote d'Ivoire, as well as, and that's Ivory Coast, as well as Togo and Benin and other Francophone countries. So with all of that said, what I want to do is to help, because there's this whole thing where people are trying to say, okay, we're not from Africa and all this other kind of stuff and blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you're not from Africa, you're not from Africa. You can't speak for me, you can't speak for the other person. So for those of us who are willing to claim and embrace our African heritage, this is what we're doing. But it's always good to have verifiable sources, back it up a few more times, connected with the genealogy, and make sure all of those things back up, because you have all of these different theories out here. And some of the theories are not without truth to them. So, you don't dismiss it just because they say it and it sounds crazy. Sometimes you get a little bit of truth in there and now people start running with it, and that's what you have happening, especially from those who have not traveled to this part of the world. They're very, very free and confident and full-throated in their denial. But I guarantee you 99.9% of them have not traveled to this part of the world and actually seen and spent the money to, unpack this. And some people say, oh, well, what's the point in doing it? Well, one, because when you get over here and you begin to understand the wealth of this part of the world, and you begin to see how many other people are here living their best lives and doing all the things that everybody says that, we shouldn't do, you understand that there's more to the story. versus being in the American bubble or the Canadian bubble or the British bubble or the French bubble or the Caribbean bubble. And that's all we know and that's all we're thinking. And we're like, I'm American, but what is American? For real, when you think about what is American? What is American? American is a concept. America is a corporation. America is a concept. That's all it is. It's not. It's really not an identity when you get down to the core of it. Now you have subcultures and you have people who bring a melting pot of ethnicities that make up that so-called American culture. But when you broaden your perspective, and that's what I realized, when you broaden your perspective, you begin to see that the world is much bigger than our one little piece of it. And when you get out here, you start meeting people, you start seeing. So anyway, with that said, Morris.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Again.
Good.
All right.
So meet again.
We meet again. we meet all the time. How about that? All right. So here we go. We're gonna walk this down.
Yeah.
We're on Zoom right here.
Good.
Obviously, we got a shot right here and we got a shot over here.
Good.
I want to talk about you.
Good.
So tell me who you are and where you're from.
Good. I'm from Achiavi, and Achiavi is a town that is in the southeastern part of the country we call Ghana now, southeastern part, you know, and my people or my ancestors speak mainly the Ewe language.
Okay.
And then, you know, and within this Ewe, you know, tribe, you have the Anglans, and so I'm an Anglan.
Anglan. So you're not just an African.
No, I'm just.
Well, because you know in America they say, well, them Africans.
I'm Africans.
No, they just put everybody.
Oh.
So I wouldn't. The Anglan.
The
is one,
Anglan.
and the Ewe is different.
No, Ewe is the same. We have in the Ewes we have the Anglans, and then we have the people we call Bedume.
Bedume. Okay.
They are also Ewes.
Okay.
And then we have Tong people.
Mm-hmm.
These three are all Ewes. They speak the Ewe language.
Okay.
But the languages differ from each other. Now, those we call Bedume are the people who live in the middle portion of the Volta region. Bedume. So we call them those who are in the middle portion of the Volta region, they speak Ewe. Now, those who live by the Volta Lake, we call them Tong people. You know, it means those who live alongside the Volta Lakes. And then the Angron people will live, you know, at the southern tip of the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah.
And so that southern tip is going to be close to what we also know as Togo.
Exactly. And so the Anglans and those calling themselves Anglans now, where my ancestors, you know, came from, they are the Anglans, the Bedume, and then the Tong people. They all migrated from a town or a village, you know, in Benin called Ngoche.
Okay.
So they migrated from this side, and then when they came to this part of the Guinea coast, when they migrated to this part of the Guinea coast, you know, they divide themselves into kingdoms.
Okay.
Yeah, they divide themselves. So the Bedume people will slang their, you know, the Ewe in a way.
Okay.
The Tong people have a way of speaking, but it is the same language.
It's
the same Ewe. It's a dialect.
It's like in America.
The same. Good.
Yeah.
Like someone from Mississippi speaks different from someone from New York.
What do you know about Mississippi?
Yeah, I have a cousin in Mississippi. And then the first time he got to Mississippi, he called me and told me, "Oh, the people here, you have to strain your ears to listen." No, someone told me, he told me again, you have to ask, "What do you say? Pardon me?" He said he's been doing pardon me, pardon me. I said, why? He said the people's language is different.
So it's different. So the difference between Mississippi, and this is so everybody understands, just like
but it's the same English.
It's the same English, and they have a different dialect within. So within the Anglong
and
the Togo,
and then the Bedume people,
Bedume and Togo,
and the Tong people,
they have different dialects within that. So the point that I want everybody to understand is that when we say African, because I hear people say this in America, you know, they constantly say them Africans, you know, they have this divide. Africans don't like African Americans don't like Africans. And I always say, well, which Africans are you talking about? Because you have, just like you just eloquently explained, that there are different ethnic groups, even within one ethnic group.
Exactly.
Which is different from the other ethnic groups.
Correct.
So it's like, how do we even come and formulate that to say that this is one, you know, that all of these people feel the same way about one particular group of people? So, you know, but I'm glad that you explained that. So you said that you come from the southern tip.
Southern tip.
So that means your
ancestors
migrated from Benin.
Benin, in a village called, a town called Moche.
Okay.
Moche. Because they migrated to this part of West Africa, Guinea Coast, because of the brutality of the ruler years back.
Okay.
And so when they migrated to this place, migrating to one place.
The African ruler. The African ruler was the brutality.
The African king is a brutalized or a tyrant ruler.
Okay. Against other people in that ethnic group.
In the ethnic group in the same town.
Okay.
He is the king or the chief of the city of Moche. And so your group left
to get away from that.
Okay. They escaped.
Okay. So
and then came to this part we call Ghana. Now we call Ghana.
Now you call it Ghana. Now, a reason why I make that point is because, and I'll always say this, that the history of slavery was so complex. And there are literally people in America right now who are angry with you.
I heard so.
Don't know you.
I heard so.
Have not spoken to you. Have not encountered your impeccable customer service. But they're angry with you and believe you and your people sold our people into slavery. But without even understanding that your people were running from the very person who might have been doing the selling.
Exactly.
But they're upset with you.
Yeah, but they are mad with me.
But you were,
I have nothing.
But your people were running from the person who was executing an abuse of power.
Exactly.
Which is a human trait, not an African trait. It's a human trait, because you see it in America, you see it all over the world. So you had that one king that was
one king called Agokoli.
And so that one person, but there are people in America and all over the world upset with you because of what Agokoli did.
Yeah, because of what Agokoli did.
But your people were running from that same tyranny.
Running from Agokoli.
So it just depended on which side. If you got caught by Agokoli, you might have gone to Brazil or Haiti or America or wherever. Or if you escaped them, you might have gone to the southern tip.
You have gone to the southern tip, migrate, cross present-day Togo, cross from Benin, cross to present-day Togo, to present-day Ghana.
Understood.
Yeah. And so, you see, just let me say something quickly about my sisters and brothers who are in the diaspora and are not happy about me being part of that tyranny and brutality, and then think I'm part of the people who sold them out. Just look at the generations, about 6 or 10 generations from those years in the 18s to this day. Now, this is the reason why when I see my brothers and sisters from the diaspora, Jay, I'm so touched. I'm so happy. Do you know why?
Why?
You just told me that even though they've not seen me before, they've not met me before, but they hate me. We were told this earlier on. This is not the first day I'm hearing this.
Really? So
yes, I knew. Yes.
Okay.
Growing from school, from primary school to today, I'm told if you get to America, when you see your brothers, be careful of them. Yeah, be careful of your own brother. I said, why? They said, yes. They said, they're not coming here because you sold them into slavery. I always say no, because we are not part of that tyranny and that brutality era. Now, so when they come down here, I'm so happy. The reason why I'm so happy is now they will know the truth and they will see with their own eyes the truth and can make the truth from the lies.
But so many people don't even want to come see the truth. Some people are so content with being angry and believing that. And then when you try to show them a different narrative, they want to hold on to, no, I want to know, they sold us. Like this scenario is so complex. And then we have another group in America that when people come from Africa, it's like we have both been told things about each other to keep us divided. To say, well, okay, when those Africans come, they're going to come take all your jobs. They're going to come. Now, there's a certain group of people that go to America and will exploit the opportunities. But every person who comes to America from Africa doesn't do that. And that's the part that, you know, that when we stop and we think about it. But I'm telling you, there's so many people just in the miseducation who feel this way. But what's happening is, and what we're doing is by having conversations like this, is that for people who really want to know and who want to educate themselves, take a few moments to follow this and follow this discussion. Because again, when you understand colonialism and imperialism and what the whole plan was and what was going on this continent, when we hear countries, like I said, when you hear countries like Ghana and Nigeria and Kenya and Tanzania and Congo and Central African Republic, these places did not even exist before 1885. But then also, as far as entities, they didn't exist until 1957 and beyond. And then you see, 1957. Right? So that's when it all started. And so when you start understanding how complex it is, you see how many similarities we have versus how many differences we have, and the fact that, again, your people were escaping the tyranny of this king. There were other people. I'm sure that king was involved in the human trafficking, slave trade.
The slave trade, exactly.
I'm sure of that.
And a killing for spirituality and for other things that, you know, every person would not like to, you know, be part of. Yeah. You know, so they have to escape to this part that we call Ghana. You know, before 1914, we don't have Togo, we don't have, you know, all Nigeria, Cameroon, and all that. But, you know, after the Second World War, you know, the European powers that came to this part of the world hungry for material, raw materials, and, you know, to trade in what they get from here with their partners. Everybody comes here.
Right.
All of them comes here. This tribe, I call them tribe of Europeans. The British were here, the Netherlands, they were here, the Germans were here, you know.
The French
were here. Serious.
Yeah.
Oh man, the French were here.
All of them still here.
And the Indians were here too.
Oh really?
Yeah, even though the Indians were colonized by the British, but they are, you know, traders.
Okay.
And most of them were here too. And so if the French are not taking, the British will take. And so after the Second World War, part of Togo is for the Germans.
Right, German Togo, right?
German, known as Transvolta Togoland. Yes, it wasn't known as Ghana.
Right.
Never known. It was known as Transvolta Togoland after the Second World War. And you see, the British, what they did was that they forcibly annexed other kingdoms. And, you know, friendly treaties too were, you know, signed. Okay. And they bring all these kingdoms together so that they can have power over this kingdom. Like the Elwes, Transvolta Togoland was taken from the Germans, being a German colony. Okay. It was a German colony. And so it, you know, was added to this place we call the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast because they get more gold from here. Gold Coast because they get more gold from here. It is in Ghana. Yeah, Ghana, we had Ghana from 1957. It was changed from Gold Coast to Ghana from 1957.
Because, you know, there are even some people in America who believe, and they'll say, well, Africa owes us reparations. And they'll say, Ghana owes us reparations because of the slave trade, and Togo and Benin. And they'll cite, well, you know, the chiefs in Benin admitted. That's one ethnic group.
That's
one ethnic group.
Yeah.
Out of at least 50, just one, who might have participated, but all get blanketed. And then the thing I encourage people to understand is that Ghana didn't exist during slavery.
No.
Togo didn't exist during slavery.
No,
Nigeria didn't exist during slavery. None of these places existed during slavery. So why are they paying reparations? If anybody owes reparations, it would be the British, the French, the Dutch, the Germans, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Belgians, America,
yes,
the Arabs.
Exactly.
So, but yet we go and run the travel to those places without question. We don't even. We say, oh, I'm going to Italy. I'm going to Spain. I'm going to Portugal, and we go on and like, I'm in Spain, and it's like you're up.
Instead of coming to the motherland.
No, but you're up the butt of the butt crack of the very thing. The Spanish were among the worst, among the absolute worst, but yet we propped them up. The Portuguese couldn't hold on to nothing, other than Angola and Brazil and Sao Tome and Cape Verde and Mozambique and some other places and Guinea-Bissau and all that. But it's like we have been so warped that we have been conditioned to hate ourselves without even realizing it. Even if it's a small portion, even if you're only 10%, even if you're 35%, even if you're a combination of everything, that part that says African, that's the part that we run from. And we don't want to embrace it. Now, a lot of us do embrace it because we're waking up and we're understanding this mind game and this economic game and this game that has been played for centuries. And we're starting to say, nah, we're doing better. And so the people who are watching this right now, let this resonate with you, because if you dig deeper into the story and don't just watch this YouTube video and don't just watch this bunch of angry black people over here who don't even know half of what they're talking about because they're caught up in the American bubble, if you step outside of the bubble, the amazing things that you can learn.
Exactly.
So look, let's dive into your DNA. So you say you're from Ghana.
I'm from Ghana.
So I'm gonna show them right here.
Yeah.
You say you're from Ghana.
I'm from Ghana. I'm a Ghanaian.
You're a Ghanaian.
Today, I'm a Ghanaian. Because my dad and my mom is a Ghanaian, and I was brought up here. I was born here.
So culturally, you're a Ghanaian.
I'm a Ghanaian.
Got it. All right. Let's see what genetically.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can pull this up. All right. So we're going to go to AncestryDNA first.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ancestry, and then we're going to hop over to African Ancestry after we do that, because I believe that'll be cool. So we're going to go to Ancestry. And those who are watching, you can follow along with us. All right, so here we are. Morris Azah.
Yep.
Right, there we go. So we see here that, well, let's look at your results. It says you are 83%.
Benin and Togo.
Benin and Togo. So
yeah. 83%.
That sounds pretty accurate to me, because you mentioned Benin.
Benin, yeah.
And Togo.
Yeah, that's where our ancestors migrated from to this part of, Guinea Coast.
Right.
I will not call it Togo or Ghana.
Okay.
Guinea Coast.
Guinea Coast.
Yes, Guinea Coast.
Well, let's dive into this a little bit deeper, because I think this is going to be good too. We dive into it a little bit deeper, and we begin to see, there we go. All right, so as we look, so 83% Benin, Togo. So this is what you said. This is what you indicated.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were talking.
Yeah, this is a map of Benin.
Right. So here you are, Benin, primarily Benin and Togo. And please, everybody, please keep in mind that these countries did not exist. All right. These countries are new inventions. They're referencing them to say, okay, this is a region that we would be familiar with. But what you talked about, you mentioned in your talk, you mentioned the village that your ancestors escaped from in Benin. Yeah, and you mentioned the king. You know the history. You know your history better than many of us in America now.
Exactly. I can tell, because I'm from the,
Yeah. So, but now if we look at it from a country perspective, you have very little Ghanaian as far as from a country perspective.
Yes.
But we're talking about migratory patterns. So if they migrated from Benin and went to the southern coast of Ghana, this would be consistent or accurate.
Very accurate. Very accurate. Because when you look at the whole map itself, now as it is, you have Benin, and you have Togo, and you have Transvolta Togoland, which is now added to the present-day Ghana to make the borderlines, Ghana. Yeah. Now, so our ancestors migrated from Benin to the southern tip of Ghana. And so it's the same. So you can see it's not far from Benin.
No.
And so we have families across the border in Togo. We have families across the border to Benin.
There we are. So we see here.
Yes.
This is where, so down here is the southern tip.
Exactly.
And coming right here.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's Benin right there.
Benin. So
Cotonou and Lomé and everything right there. And Lagos is in Nigeria. And you have a little bit of Nigeria in there too.
I have a 2% Nigerian.
All right. Which could, again, Benin, Nigeria, all of that, those are artificial borders. These are borders that were just made up. Made up by the Europeans. Africans didn't even have anything
No
say in the making up of the border.
No. We don't have borders from here to Cameroon. No borders. You know, they travel, they migrate, they get farmlands on their own. Wherever the land is fertile, they move with their herds, they are hunters also. Okay. And they move from places to places.
Right.
Yeah. And so those who are fishermen, they move from one coastal area to another coastal area. Guess what happened the other day? We went to Cape Coast, and I saw a stretch of land between Cape Coast and Elmina.
Okay.
And I saw a lot of Anglons.
Really?
The Elwes living between this stretch, between Cape Coast and Elmina.
Oh yes, on the beach.
On the beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because you go to Benin and you see them on the beach.
Good. So I inquired, why my people? They said, whoa, they came here years back, and some of them don't know their roots back to the Anglo land anymore.
Okay.
And so this is how people migrate. They are fishing folks. Fishing folks from Anglo land, and they migrated to that place, and they're fishing, and they are okay there. Right. And so they settle there. They speak fluent Akan.
Okay.
They speak fluent Akan than some of the indigenous Akans themselves. And so you see, so here is Anglo man living in Cape Coast, can speak fluent Anglo and can tell you where he from from Anglo land. And so, we are the same people, one people, and there's no division.
All right. Well,
until the European powers came.
Yeah, and that's how it typically goes, because divide and conquer, and that's what happens when you have this whole divide between Africans and African Americans and Afro-Brazilians and Jamaicans and Haitians and the Ghanaians and Ivorians, and yet all based on language. What's happening now in Cameroon, based on colonizer language.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting thing too. It's really, really interesting. All right, so now what I want to do, so we want to talk about African ancestry.
African ancestry.
Which is different. And let me explain African ancestry, because this is where so many people get confused. And when I say getting confused, they get confused. So they'll say that they're 99% or 100% a particular thing when they see it, without understanding how African ancestry works. African ancestry works by way of taking one strand, one line. There's only one line. So say your father's line.
My father's line.
Okay. And it only goes to men. Father. Yeah. Father. No mothers, no grandmothers, no mother's father, and all of that. Ancestry is comprehensive. That's why I like it. African ancestry is specific. So it'll take that one line, no other lines.
No other line.
And will tell you the origins of that line. You have thousands of lines. Meaning you have your mother, your father, but then you also have your father's mother, and then your father's mother, your father's mother's mother, and your father's mother's father. And so it branches, and then they have parents, and then so it branches off. So that's why some people get confused. They're like, well, how did this happen? I thought I was going to be 100% African. Or you find some people who will look like us, and they'll find out that originating line is European, like my father's line. If we just take all the men back, it went to Spain and Portugal.
Spain and Portugal.
Right. So, but that's consistent with what history has indicated by way of the slave trade, because the Portuguese came here.
The Portuguese came here.
Spain and Portugal are in essence the same. The only thing that separates them is that border. And so that's what happened. And so that's not inconsistent.
And we learned that some of these Portuguese and these slave owners, have families with their African women. Married to these African women.
Not even married. They were doing all
forced them have children forcibly with them.
Yeah, and they did in America and everything. So let's look here at African ancestry and see what comes up. Which is going to be, I know the results, and I think it's going to be interesting for everybody when they see this. So this is what African ancestry reveals. It's interesting because this is the beginning of one particular line. This is not comprehensive of all of your lines, just one line.
One line.
It's going to be your, I believe it's your paternal line. Well, we'll see.
Line.
Yeah, I believe it is the paternal line.
And that makes sense a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
African ancestry, genetic paternal ancestry of the Akan people living in Ghana. So now, that's just one line. So because you talk about Benin. Right. Where many people originated. But with the migratory patterns that were happening, people were moving all around everywhere. And so, but the fact that this now brings you back to this part of the world and so closely, you know, because the Akan, that's a different ethnic group from the Ewe.
From a different ethnic group from the Ewe.
Different ethnic group. Yeah. Now, this goes back 500 to 2,000 years.
500
to 2,000 years. So this means so if you go back 500 years, you potentially have like 4,000 to 5,000 people in your ancestry. So this is just one person out of thousands that this links to. Okay. And so now, here we are in Ghana. This was done November 10th, 2022. November 10th, yeah. There we see it right here. And so we now go back and we see that we're still in this part of the world. This is one part of it. This could be the least, this could be part of that 15% that came out of Ivory Coast and Ghana. But it goes to show, one, you're 100% from Africa, and he's from this region of the world. There's nothing inconsistent about that. And this is what I tell people. I say, that part is consistent. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go and find who you're related to. Yeah. Because I think that's another key part. We're going to see who you are related to. We'll go back over to this. All right. Share the screen. Come back over. All right, so now we're back with Morris Azah. Here we go. See that there? And then we come over to your DNA matches. And it's also going to tell you which side of the tree it matches on. All right, here we go. So you have, have you ever been to America?
No.
Okay, you've never been to America?
No.
Never been to America, so they say.
Never stepped my foot there before.
Hey, so you didn't go over and have a little girlfriend or nothing like that? You know,
not yet.
Not yet. Get a little something, get a little bump and grind going on. So he hasn't done that. But somehow he has 272 matches. Yeah. And ironically, some of those matches don't look like that they're all African. No, you see, look. Yeah. So, all right, so you have 5 matches on one parent side, and then you have 272 matches on another parent side. And many of them went to the Caribbean and then Missouri. So let's go into some of these matches and look at this. This is why this stuff is really fascinating. I don't care what people try to tell you. They're going to tell you all kinds of things because they want you to stay in their bubble. But at least investigate it and go see for yourself. Yes, you have to investigate. That's what we're doing. Yeah, if it's fraudulent, okay, we'll go and figure it out. We'll find out that it's fraudulent or whatever. All right, so let's see here. When we look, we see here that you have someone that's a 4th or 6th cousin. A lot of 4th to 6th cousins. So they're close but not close. They're close but not close. But based upon the theory of what these people say, that that y'all don't even, there's no connection. There's no nothing based upon what they say. But we see here that there is clearly, these are people that you link to. Yeah. And I'm looking here, now those people don't look that, they don't look like they are, they look like they got like somebody got them, they look very European. You look very European. Extremely European. However, we see that you're 100% from here, so somebody in their line. Somebody in their line. Is African. Of African descent. Yeah, African descent, whose DNA is linked to mine. Right. So that's the interesting part about this. So we begin to see, and that's just on one side. So you see 4th and 6th cousin. I'm going to go to, let's see, parent 2. Let's see how this lines up. Parent 2. And again, well, look at here. Now this is interesting because you have this person, but now you have somebody here named Kwashe Avagbodo. Yeah, Avagbodo. So you have a Ghanaian flag there. Avagbodo. Now it's an Angolan. An Anglais.
Yeah.
Okay. See, now you just explained all of this.
Yeah, Abagbedo is an Anglais. And Clovis is also an Anglais.
But if you look at this, you see right here,
Yeah.
the Ghanaian flag. Here you are. Clearly, I mean,
Yes.
I don't understand, and I don't know
But
why.
but
Like we're making this up right now.
Yeah.
Like we're sitting here making this up.
No.
I mean, it's like
No,
it's the
nobody's making it.
It's like it's the craziest thing. I just have to spend just a moment because it's the craziest thing.
No.
You don't know. You spit in the tube. We got it on the video last time.
Yeah.
He spit in the tube. Not you spit in the tube.
Yeah.
But you went in.
Kwashi, you know.
And
Abagbedo.
these are all things that you recognize and are familiar to you.
Yeah.
But somehow, when people see it, they say, well, no, it's fake, it's fake,
And
it's
when you
fake.
go down again, you see different, the names, the our names, you know, with the
Quavy, right here.
Quavison. You know, Quavy, he just want to, is it a man? It's a man.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a man.
It looks like all men. The lady right there, lady at the
A
bottom.
lady, because he's lived outside and they changed the Quavy and made it Quavison.
So like Johnson. And
Like Johnson.
Jackson. And
Good.
All right.
Quavy. So
Morrison.
the father is Quavy and Quavison.
so here's the
Quavy and Quavison. And Quavy, most of the Quavies are from Togo.
right in along that region.
Yeah.
So hey, guess what? Go do your research. Go find out these names. Quavy, Quavison, Quavy.
Yeah, Quavy.
Find out where the names come from.
Most of these Quavy are from Togo. Yeah.
I think this is fascinating, man. I think that let's dive into this a little bit more because some of the information, it's like it talks about where common communities. So you probably have people that, like I said, Missouri settlers, and then the Lesser Antilles, African Caribbeans. So the Carolinas,
African Caribbeans.
so Afro-Haitians. So it talks about these connections right here. But again, it's fascinating. My thing is, go ahead.
And you see, I just saw something,
Okay.
Afro-Haitians.
Yes.
And we know most of the Haitians come from Benin
Yes.
because of their spirituality.
And also, they went to Brazil too. They came from. You have a lot in Brazil.
Good.
But yes, in Benin in particular. And that's, as a matter of fact, someone on our team, Joe,
Joe,
he's Haitian.
he's Haitian.
And he's like, I want to go to Benin.
Aha.
He said,
His
because
spirit is yearning to go to
Benin.
Benin.
He keeps saying, I want to go to Benin.
His
He tells me
spirit is
every
yearning
time.
to go
He
to
said, so I want to make sure we get him to Benin.
You know,
because-
with the Awers and all those who come from, all Haitians have the same spirituality.
Okay. And you know, that's one of the things too, because what I hear from a lot of so-called African Americans is how they just talk about West Africa and how it's supposed to be a bad place. They talk about New Orleans, how it's supposed to be a bad place, and you don't want to go there because of some of the spirituality that conflicts with Western spirituality, if you will. Western.
Yes.
So they'll say, well, no, don't go there. And I'm highlighting this part right here because West Africa is really, you know, Donald Trump, he called it S-hole countries. That's what he referred to it as. And I've heard a lot of other African Americans refer to it as that, without even realizing that that's the same way those same entities see them. You know, the people
same
that,
entities
those
see
same racist elements in America see Black America the same way they see West Africa. That's exact same
How
way.
they see
How
the
they
African Americans in
the
America.
same way they see them, the same exact way, no different, and they refer to us the same way they refer to West Africa. And when you look at it from a larger scale, if you look at the imperial interest, that's how they treat places in Brazil, Haiti. Why is Haiti going through and have gone through as much as what it's gone through? Because of that's how they see it. They see the resource, they see our skills, they see our labor, they see our talent, and they say, how can I profit off of this? And
How can I profit from
How
this?
can I profit? How can I take advantage of it? And so you capture someone and then you educate them. But then the devious part is you use people who look like us to educate us with their curriculum.
With their curriculum.
With their information, misinformation. And so don't learn that. So don't go there. Don't see that because it's bad. It conflicts with how we have now imposed our systems on you. We say what's right. We say what's wrong. And anything that they said that they did, they said that's wrong. And so when you talk about the spirituality, that's how it's been characterized. And so many of us say, that's wrong, that's bad, don't be a part of it, stay away from that part of the world because there's nothing good there. And I'm not saying everything is good. I'm just saying that it should have further and deeper analysis than just what a couple books tell us, because most of us read books, but we won't come here and be among the people and learn and understand why.
Understand why.
And here's another interesting point, and I want to hone in on this. A lot of people will come, and a lot of people will feel, I've heard them say, well, how come them Africans didn't come get us? There's a lot of African Americans who say this. How come they didn't come back and see about getting us?
To get their brothers from the West Indies,
right. How come,
from the plantation.
I mean, like, there are really people sitting around in their basements.
How come they didn't come for us?
And the question is simple. With what military?
With what? What military?
What military were they going to come and get the people back that they couldn't keep the people from being taken from? With what military force were they going to come across the ocean and now come up into America, go up into Britain, go up into Canada, and go get their brothers and sisters back? You know how many people lost relatives? A mother whose son went out to go get sugarcane or coconut or whatever and never returned.
Yeah.
That mother grieved until she went to her grave over that child. Just like that child grieved for his mother when he or she got on that boat or went in those dungeons. But because of the simplicity in some of our thought processes and because of the immaturity and the lack of comprehensive thinking, we think that, oh man, these people were supposed to come over here and get us and take us back. With what resources, with what money, with what military would they do it? And there are people sitting around right now angry.
They are hitting below the belt. If it's a boxing, I would say my brothers and sisters up there who are thinking that, we're not coming back to the motherland because they sold us out and they do this and that, they are hitting below the belt.
Well, that's how some people do when they're offended. There's a popular scripture that says an offended brother is more unyielding than a fortified city. I've heard people come over and we'll bring them, and this is, again, we got to do better, y'all. This is across the board, even here on the continent. Even when people go to America and they say, well, okay, I'm going to take advantage of all of the opportunities that African Americans have laid for us, and we're going to claim African American, but we're not going to embrace the culture, and we're not going to do that and all of that. Let me make this one point, I'll come back to that. Another thing that I hear is that there's this expectation of people that you all here in Africa should know our African American history. And they'll really get offended when they'll go to the dungeons and they'll see people who are at the dungeons in Elmina and Cape Coast, and they're not as emotional and they're not feeling the same thing.
The same thing as they feel when they get to the dungeon.
They get there, or they just don't understand when they come and say, well, I'm back. And so many people don't even know, oh, okay, you back.
You're back.
All right, congratulations. Now, there are people out there in their arrogance and their white supremacy, they're black, but they have a white supremacy mindset.
Exactly.
So meaning thinking that, our history is so special and unique, and our history is so, so special. And so, everybody should know our history. And then the question I asked them is that, do you know their history? So what arrogance is in us that causes us to stop and say, they should know our history, but we shouldn't know anything about their history. Now, when I presented that to people, and people who were really serious about learning, they're like, what, you're right. I don't know the history of the airway. I don't know about the Fanti and the Ashanti and how they, and the Dutch and the British.
The Dagbani, the people from the northern tip of Ghana.
None of that. A lot. And I had to come here in order to begin to learn that history, and then to put a different perspective on it, to say, well, who am I to be upset if they don't know my history, if I don't know their history? There are people that they'll say, them Africans, but they have not been down to South Africa and saw the images of the people who were shot dead in the street the same way they were shot dead in the street during the Civil Rights era, who were being lynched, who were being hung. They didn't see the battles between the Germans and the Namibians and saw how they were fighting the same battle, what was going on over in Togo and how they were dealing with the Germans and the French. And all of this stuff you begin to learn when you come here and you say, wait a minute, all of this was a diabolical plan to make sure we didn't learn what the bigger plan is. Keep us, and I tell people all the time, it's easy and it's cheap to read a book and watch a YouTube video. That's it. When it's time to get on the plane, that's when people start getting nervous. I don't know if I can be on the plane too long. I don't know if I can do this, that, and the other. But they're all
how long is it going to be on the plane?
Right, but they're experts in history. They're experts. They know everything. They know because they read somebody's video or book or what. And I'm saying, yo, we got to do better. You know, and so part of what this is being able to bridge the gap. Because my life changed once I understood the manipulation that had been played on my mind, and the people who come on our tours, their life changes. Yeah,
my life has changed too.
Your life has changed too.
Do you know what? We've been told, your brothers up there, the only thing they know is to kill themselves. They have opportunity to learn. They are not learning. They are lazy and all that. Filthy, lazy, and they kill each other all the time. But when I see my brothers and sisters come down and I travel with them and I listen to them, you guys are so powerful. Powerful, not that, I'm not talking about physical powerful, but you have gone through a lot, but you still give the smile that is, good. You still show love and smile and then live like, you haven't seen nothing. But I see you people, very strong people.
Now,
yes, because what Yah went through in America, my ancestors went through struggle before we are here today as free Ghanaians from the imperialists.
Right.
Now, went through struggle. But the struggle my forefathers went through, I cannot compare it with the struggle your forefathers went through, your ancestors went through to have you all like how you living in America today. Even today, you're still struggling.
Yeah, but our struggle is nothing compared to what to your point. Our struggle is nothing compared to what our forefathers and foremothers went through in America. To build. They're things that we've never experienced.
Yes.
That's why when people talk about they sold us into slavery, I was like, you've never been a slave. You don't understand what it was like. The marches that we have are minuscule in comparison to what my grandparents' generation went through.
Your grandparents' generation.
And I tell people all the time, I said, they did that so we would have the opportunity to travel the world.
That's it.
They did it so we would have the opportunity to do things they never did. And that's why so many people come on our trips of all generations, but in particular, you will see that there are people who are older and they're in their 70s and 80s and 90s, and they're saying, I got to go on this trip. I have to go now.
Yes,
and they're coming because it resonates with them, and they're like, their ancestors paved the way for them. None of us knows what it's like to be on a slave plantation. Yeah. None of us, we know what it's like to be called nigga or something like that, but we don't know what it's like to be on a slave plantation. We know what it's like to fear being shot in the cars or carjacked. We understand that. That's a different kind of thing because some of the craziness they have going on in America right now with the malls, we've been dealing with that for a whole generation.
Okay.
But when it comes to that in-your-face brutality every day, Mr. Doyle talked about it on the video, and he broke down. He talked about when he came back from fighting for that country. And then coming back and being handed a mop and said, boy, go clean that toilet over there. Go sweep up and mop up around and do all these different things.
I remember very well.
And so from that,
he even wished he could go back and take up that part.
He said it. He said it. And that's why for us who have these opportunities, for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but I owe it to my grandparents and great-grandparents that I knew who never had a chance to see this. I owe it to them. Because they were the ones who were taking me to football practice and making sure I had access. So now I'm not going to sit in a hole because of other people who sit in a hole. I'm going to go and I'm going to lead people on a journey. But also what we're going to do is make it to where inspire people to say, we got to bridge this gap. Because all of this stuff, we're going up, running up to Dubai and running over to these other places. These places don't care nothing about us.
Nothing.
And it's gratifying. Don't get me wrong.
Nothing. Zero.
And the deal is, Dubai is nice. I'm not saying it's not nice. And I'm not saying don't go. But what I'm saying is there's so many people, so many black people in America, so many black people in the Caribbean, so many black people in the UK, in France, in Canada, and other places that say, I've been all over the world, but I've never been to Africa. I've never even had a desire to go. Yeah. It wasn't even an interest of mine. But yet we walk around and cry about how mistreated we are, and talk about how bad things are.
And you don't want to come.
But looking down, it's like a classist mindset on so many levels.
Wow.
And it's like until we begin to embrace one another. And I'm not saying you got to come over here and live or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying understand the context of the story. The context of the story is so much broader than anything they'll ever teach you in an American history book. And if you don't believe the DNA, then just come see for yourself. You don't need DNA. When you come over here, you don't need an ounce of DNA to look and say, oh, wow. You see all your cousins, your aunties, and everything, you know. And I'm sorry, you're going to be hard-pressed to find that on a tribe in America.
So the last time I was telling my brothers and sisters who came down and just left that, the African Americans who will not, who are not thinking of coming down to the motherland, they are doing their ancestors a big dishonor.
Yeah, we talk ancestors, but many of us talk about our ancestors, and they talk about our ancestors in America and all of that. But our ancestors in America had ancestors. And so if we were really wanting to honor our ancestors in America, we would be able to honor that one person or two people or however many people in our ancestry that made it across that ocean, whether they came before Columbus or after Columbus.
I get it.
They made it across that ocean and they survived.
And they survived.
And I think about that one, or whoever those people were, the first ones. And I said, those are still my American ancestors too, because meaning they landed on the land of America. America wasn't a country until 1776. So when I think about them, and then I think about what was the next generation for them, I think about my trip to the Whitney Plantation in Louisiana and all of the horror of what my American ancestors went through. And I'm thinking to myself, what about that first batch that longed for their home back here? We don't even think about them. We don't even consider them in the equation. We just think, hey, forget them. And then we really don't, most of us, 99% of us don't have a real connection to our American ancestors to even understand their story and to understand how miseducated many of them were. That's why I sat down with my Aunt Betty, and she was able to tell her story. She's 86. And she told her story of how she grew up. And I said, wow, if it was that misinformed at that age,
at 86.
At 86, 80, 70-some years ago now, if it was that bad then, imagine what it was like a generation before that, and a generation before that, and a generation before that. And if we still got to go 10, 15 more generations before that to get back to these shores.
Yeah.
Meaning in some cases people were coming in the 1800s and still coming over. But what I'm saying is this story is so much deeper, and I encourage you to go and dive deeper and learn, because what it will do for you is when you open your mouth, you can open your mouth with a different level of authority. And then when people come talk about we not from there, and the U.S. government said, and the Census Bureau said, and the United States Archives said right here, and the U.S. this, that, and the other said, I'm saying, y'all trusting the same source. You want me to trust the same source that you have a problem with, that you're telling me that gave me bad information, but yet you want me to trust that same source just because it's coming out of your mouth. We have to go deeper. I firmly believe, and let me put this in here, I firmly believe that there were people from this continent who made it to what we now know as America before the slave trade. I believe firmly that they were constructing boats, because you see it in Egypt. You see where there were people already on boats. I'm not saying they came from Egypt. I'm saying that boats were already constructed and they understood what it was like.
You just said something that America wasn't America before 1776. Wasn't America. And so who are these people who are occupying the land of America now, who later on called themselves Americans, and then came down here to, take on slaves for themselves, to, expand their plantation, and then, cause a lot to our people, you know. And so these people they also travel from Europe to America, and then build themselves up, and then came to Africa to cause the atrocity we know that was caused to our ancestors.
And they've been doing it now for hundreds of years. And they've been doing it, if you go to Brazil, another thing a lot of African Americans feel is that, we are the ones who went through slavery the worst. It's it's almost like trauma superiority. My trauma was worse than yours, my pain was worse than yours. And then you travel and you understand same stuff was happening in Brazil. slavery and colonization in essence were the same. So they had plantations here. And I mean, you had to harvest the stuff. You had to take, if you want to take it across, you took the people and you also took the stuff. So you had to, and they were still shipping and growing all. So when you had this trade, you had cargo, human cargo, also additional resources. And so they were doing this stuff, all the Danes or the Danish, one of the two had a plantation here in Ghana, what we know as Ghana. In Brazil, you had the majority of the enslaved go there. So when you go to Brazil, you see almost 100 million, a little more than 100 million people who identify as Afro-Brazilian. And then, of course, you go down through the Caribbean, Dominica, Trinidad, Tobago, Hispaniola, I think that's what it's called, Haiti and Dominican Republic and Cuba, and places like that, all throughout Costa Rica and Central America and Panama and Honduras and Nicaragua, all through there, and Guatemala. You see all of these melanated people, even parts of Mexico. And of course, you go over to China, you have it as well. But I'm just focusing on this part, and this is what we'll leave you with today. The story is much bigger.
It's much bigger.
It's much bigger, and that's the part. The story is much bigger than what they've been telling us.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to be able to go learn. I hope this little piece of information, hey, go refute it, go refute it. And somebody's gonna say, well, they said in the study, such and such, you can't do this, that, and the other. Propaganda comes from so many different ways. The way you refute propaganda is to go get on the ground and go see for yourself. I'm someone, I understand that America plays games and all these different systems play games, so I'm just not going to take the word for it. But that's why I wanted to come and have a conversation with Morris as he eloquently explained what his history, which then coincided with what the DNA said. Yeah. And so now we could dive deeper and dive deeper. And so you put the genealogy with the DNA. Some people just don't want to be African because they don't understand the wealth. But I guarantee you, if you took them same people, and now all of a sudden Africa became the spot to be and it was wealthy and money, them same jokers would be running over here talking about I'm African and I want to get something too for free. So sometimes a mindset kind of goes with this thing too. I guarantee I could put together a profile of the type of person who embraces this type of stuff and typically it's rooted to some sort of self-denial, self-hatred, or maybe they just haven't been exposed to this information. And so you give them more information to consider. I tell people all the time, one brother was like, well, I've been to Africa before. Where'd you go? I went to Kenya. I said, did you come to the West? No, I haven't been to the West yet. I said, go to the West and then come back and talk to me. He said, you know what, I'm gonna do that. He said, brother, I want to go and learn this thing for myself. It's not just enough for me to just kind of take this and run with it. I'm gonna go dive a little bit deeper. Haven't heard from him yet. But again, I haven't met anybody who's been to the West and spent time in the West who that has come back and said, okay, there's no part of us comes from that part of the world. That hasn't been the case. If all those who are saying the argument is not whether or not we come from there, the argument is that we also have indigenous roots in America. I have indigenous in me too. But my DNA profile has indigenous American in there too, but I'm not going to deny my African. Reckon I got European going on too, but I'm not going to deny my African. And I'm going to hold that up and I'm going to take all of it and embrace it because there's wealth and value in being able to claim all of these cultures. And you can learn so much from each one. And if you could take an asset from all of these different places and it makes you someone, imagine how powerful you can be. So anyway, so that's the deal, Morris. Anything you want to, as we get ready to wrap up?
What I want to say is our brothers and sisters who live up there, what I have to tell them is they should come. They should come down to the motherland and see the truth for themselves. As a tour guide, I've seen a lot and I've learned a lot when I go out with my brothers and sisters from the diaspora. After our tour, we go to the slave dungeon, we go to Slave River, we go to the naming ceremony, we do the drumming and they see their brothers and sisters. At the end of the tour, I see that they are changed men and women. Changed men and women, not because of the physical things they went and saw with me, not the things I told them, but I see that spiritually, it feels like they have arrived. It feels like they are being baptized, like someone who is being baptized and coming out from the water, coming out with chest out. They become, something different. They become happy within themselves. So happy. And so come and experience the truth. Come and learn. Come and see your people. Yes, we are not saying come and then build your houses and stay here. That is your choice. But when you go around the world, don't forget, come home and see and learn the truth. And you will be liberated physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Well, everybody, you heard it from Mr. Morris. We're going to wrap this up. I have this one last thought. For those who say that they don't want to come to West Africa because they don't want to revisit the past. This is another thing I hear a lot of people say. I don't want to go to those places. It's horrible. It's a crime scene. It is a crime scene. And I respect each person's decision. But for those who are willing to consider it, there's a value in going and seeing what happened because it connects the dots. It makes sense. It's like, oh, that's what was going on. Well, that's still going on today. And when you begin to see that, it starts to put a context to help you understand why you do some of the things you do, why you think the way you think. It starts to strip down some issues that you might not have even realized that you had. And so I hear time and time again, people talk about how liberated they are when they come. That's what this is really about. You come and you have the experience and you go back and you say, wow, for me, I realized how powerful I was when I came here. My coming here is what sparked my interest in learning even more about my history in America. And it brought me back to America to say, wow, there are things that we can do. This is what really was taken from us. When you know that you lived in a mansion, when you know you had all the amenities, and someone came in and stole it from you and your ancestors, and then you go back and you say, you know what? We built that. Not only did we do that over there, we did it over here too. And our brothers and sisters over here. And it's not a matter of comparing who did more, who did what. We've all dealt with a different level of trauma. And when you put that into perspective, you say, okay, so what can we do now to be able to bridge this gap and to close this in the information gap, the education gap, the economic gap? We're in their system now. We're in a global economic system. Some people want to run. They want to run from America and come here and bring all of that drama that they got in America over here. It's like some people don't need to come here. Some people need to stay their behinds right there in America. Don't even come because you're going to bring more drama than anything and you're going to cause more problems. But for those who have open minds and those who are people who are willing to respect the cultures and to come and learn from the people and not see the people as a charity case, look, don't bring shoes and clothes and all of that. They're trying to tell people don't bring the shoes and clothes. Oh, I'm going over there and I want to take shoes and clothes and because the children need it. When you walk down the street, you don't see anybody starving. And you see plenty of clothes and shoes, and you see people eating every single day. And so that's the thing that they pitch to us. That's why I say, come see for yourself. And you realize I don't need to bring any clothes and shoes. As a matter of fact, now I'm not saying that people nowhere in Africa need it. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is our mindset is that we have that savior's complex. And we've adopted that from white supremacy. We've adopted that thinking that, oh, when I go, I need to take, they need us to come help them. When in actuality, they have things just as important that we need. And when we now cross that together, then you begin to see, wow, it's amazing what we can do. And it's not that it's going to be some big harmonious thing. It's going to be probably on a micro level because mindsets have been so twisted and warped for generations. I'm just talking to that person who's like, I want to do better. I'm talking to that young person that if you take a trip like this, you come to this part of the world, how it changes the trajectory of your life and where the position that it can put you in comparison to your peers. And now you've had exposure to things that so many other people haven't had. You could be the first to, one, set foot on the continent of Africa and your family, and the lessons and the pictures and the videos and experiences that you can share with your family and your future children. That's why it's important as an investment for you to come. For the Gen Xers, you're in the middle, you're sandwich generation. You have the ability to have your parents have this experience, as well as your children, as well as yourself. This thing is much bigger than what we realize. And so I hope that, through this conversation, you've been inspired to think deeper and to make modifications if need be. Mm-hmm. So if not, hey, that's the deal. If not, cool. Well, I'm talking to the person who says, yes, I'm ready to look at the man in the mirror. I'm ready to make that change, make it today. Anyway, with all of that said, thank you for joining us. Now you know the results. Yeah. Until next time, take care. Be safe.
Open up your eyes and see all the fun and mystery. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny. From the mountains to the shore, so many things to explore. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny.
The Adventures of Darren and Destiny. And Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, and you go on their adventures throughout the African diaspora, meaning so African diaspora destinations, primarily focused in Africa, but we go to South America, we're going to go to the Caribbean. Their first book is going to take you to Ghana. And then we're gonna go on a safari. And from there, we're gonna go to Ethiopia, and then we're going to Salvador, Brazil. And what the goal is to be able to inspire curiosity in the continent of Africa, in our children from a very young age, and to really tell a more accurate story. Most of our children are exposed to negative images, late night infomercials about how bad things are, everybody's sick, everybody's poor, everyone's uneducated, but that's simply not true. So what Darren and Destiny and their family do is they go to different African destinations. They are learning about these different places. You're beginning to see positive images, but still telling the truth. I mean, that's the important thing, to tell the truth about some of the things that have occurred. But it's all done on our children's level so they begin to understand it. And it begins to pique their curiosity. They begin to learn more. And hopefully one day they will want to explore and visit the continent of Africa and its many countries. There's just so much that Darren and Destiny are able to do, and as they're doing it, it's like they begin to open the minds of a new generation, and they don't get bombarded and indoctrinated with negativity. They're actually able to see positivity and inspiring images and messages about the African diaspora, as well as those who are still indigenous to the continent of Africa, and they begin to learn more and just see things differently. So I'm excited about introducing the adventures of Darren and Destiny.